Hello! I'm so glad you could join me. My name is Pixie. Today I want to share with you what I've learned about love in the past 20 years. Not everything. It's one of those things, like anything that's worthwhile, where you keep learning indefinitely, and that's exciting and terrifying at the same time. But, unity of opposites. So, I'm gonna share this big stack of drawings with you with my diary entries about love spanning from 2005 up until 2022. I chose ducks as my subject, and I just want to quickly explain why I did that before we jump into it. So, my current lover has Irish heritage, and he told me about a saying in Gaelic which can be translated into English as the lake is not heavier for having the duck on it. And it basically just means don't sweat the small stuff. Like, the duck is not heavy on the surface of the lake, and that is how you should approach like little annoyances in your life. That's how I've understood it from my Googling at least. But when I first heard it, my immediate impression, my immediate thought was that like the duck is not a burden to the lake, because the duck is part of the lake's ecosystem and it belongs there, and so it's not a burden. And so I associated that with sort of the fear of being a burden to people you love, but people you love generally want to help you, and you typically like feel good when you can help someone that you care about. And it may be difficult at times, but it's not a burden as such. And so I took that and ran with it, and so that's why it is ducks. Let's jump into it. We're starting in 2005 when I was 15 with some, I don't know, gay denial slash me trying to convince myself that I wasn't in love with a girl, which I don't know how successful it was. I did my best. I don't know. I wasn't religious. I never was. I'm too like pragmatic and literal minded. But all of my friends were religious Christians, and so I hung out a lot in church and got to hear a decent amount of homophobia. And since I was already like a weird kid, because of the autism, I felt that I couldn't afford to be weird in another way. So I was like, I cannot like girls. That is off limits, out of the question. Obviously, as I got older, I accepted that I am bisexual, and that is just how it is. I moved from there also, which helped. Weirdly, this was the day after. I didn't notice that when I chose these. I guess I was lamenting how needing someone makes you vulnerable, and I wanted to feel useful and not useless, which I often felt as a teenager and in my early 20s. I think that's probably quite common. So I wanted to be needed and not need, which sounds impossible. Obviously, I don't feel that way anymore. I'm 34 now, and at least slightly wiser. Speaking of, this is really funny to me. So now we're in 2007. I'm 17, and I'm like, I know nothing about love. Of course, bitch, you're 17. You have barely lived. Of course you don't know anything about love. But I found that really scary, and I guess points against me in some kind of nebulous competition. 2008, 18 years old, terrified of loving someone. I didn't think I could survive being hurt, like I said. Spoilers for future entries, but I did survive being hurt multiple times, and I'm sure I will again, for whatever reason. Still 18, it may be the hardest thing ever to say that you like someone. I don't agree with this anymore, because I've done it a few times at this point, and been rejected and survived it. I still hate being rejected, obviously, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's fine. But definitely a valid feeling from 18-year-old me. And here I was in a relationship and sort of reflecting on how I felt that being emotionally intimate with someone kind of exposed me to flaws I didn't know I had. And but it also made me see myself as like funny and interesting in a way I hadn't realized before. It was a very educational experience to me to be in my first like long-term relationship, which lasted a year. And I was nervous about it because it's a huge responsibility to have someone love you, which, is that true? Kind of. There is responsibility in love. I would still agree with that, I think. But it makes me nervous, makes it sound like I was feeling it as like a demand at this time. 20 years old, first relationship, first serious relationship, anyway. I don't think it's that. I think it's just that things that are worth something take some work, and you need to be responsible both with other people's emotions and your own, and that can be hard. That's just something you gotta deal with. So dramatic. I never intended these to be read, so I am fully as dramatic as I feel in the moment. Love can kill, and I fear for my life. I started dating someone recently at this point, and I was like unhealthily obsessed with him. But it didn't kill me. I got out of it eventually. This was written during that relationship. I was starting to feel him like pull away. So this entry was me being like, I want to hold hands, but I'm sick of always being the one who is let go of and not the one who lets go. I was feeling like needy and pathetic in a way that I didn't enjoy, but I also couldn't like stop myself from being, because I had other issues that I needed to work on. Become someone else, someone who didn't stop loving, look for reasons to live. I actually think this is like solid heartbreak advice. Focus on maybe learning a skill you've always wanted to have, or doing things that you compromised away from during the relationship. I remember when this breakup happened, I stopped shaving my armpits because that was a compromise I made, because that fucking asshole thought that, women's armpit hair is disgusting, but men's is fine, which is a weird stance, one of his many weird stances. He didn't deserve the obsession that I have for him, but, I was young and severely mentally unwell, so sometimes these things happen. Anyway, obviously I found reasons to live, and I'm honestly kind of proud of myself for that, because that breakup was really difficult for me because of like other life factors as well. I was like starting to recognize myself as disabled and like struggling to see myself fitting into anywhere in the world, and being dumped just made me feel even more like lost in the world and like I didn't have anywhere to belong. But I got through it, and now I'm here. The ending is only happy if it's the beginning. Still break up me thinking about how, in a rom-com, the happy ending is like the beginning of the relationship. So yeah, that's what this is about. It's not that deep. And then we go to 2014. This is about one of many friends I have had unrequited crushes on. Isn't that just the way of the useless bisexual? I felt like this friend was perfect, even though I recognized that, no human being is, and I did see her as a human being, but I could also sort of recognize that I did have a like romanticized image of her in my head, if that makes sense. I was like, I'm not being realistic, but I think she is perfect. Rose-tinted glasses, as they say. This was probably about that same person, and I did choose this duck specifically for this because, the duck is burying their head in the water, similar to the expression burying your head in the sand, because this was a coward's position. oh, it's better to have unrequited love because you can't lose it. Like, whatever. But it's okay. We're allowed to be stupid sometimes. Especially about love. I think love can really make you just an absolute fool, which, you know, many have written about, including Swedish pop band The Cardigans in their hit song Love Fool. This is about another friend who I was like yearning for. She was in a relationship for a long time during our friendship, and when they broke up, I didn't confess because I didn't want to like pounce on her when she had just gone through a breakup that was difficult. But I waited so long that she moved on to someone else. So I missed the window, and then we lost touch, which was sad. This is super dramatic, but you know, feelings can be dramatic. Look, I realize this is weird. This was about that same friend. I think I was trying to reference Seeing the Face of God and sort of flipping that on its head, because apparently I didn't feel like my love for her was, you know, rapturous or amazing in any way. I almost didn't include this, but I think the weirdness has a place in the love chapter, because love can make you a fool, can also make you just weird as hell. I just think this is a kind of a nice message. If you had a second chance, would you still cage your heart? I don't remember if it's in reference to a specific situation, but I do think it's amazing growth from like, oh, I couldn't survive being hurt, to obviously having survived being hurt a few times and being like, maybe it's worth opening up your heart and risk getting hurt. And this is kind of on that same theme. I'm not entirely sure if this is about a specific person, so I will not say anymore. I included this just because I think it's funny in like a mundane sort of way. Like, who has the energy to date? I know for sure that I had been on Tinder during this time, which is really tiring. Dating as such, I might have energy for, but Tinder is just exhausting on a different level. And also I think this duck pose is really cute. I mostly used photos I've taken myself for these, because that's kind of a rule I've made for this entire book, that I want to use my own reference. But I have also used pictures that my current lover has taken. So that is the case for this and also for these lovely sleepy ladies. This is about a friend that I had a bit of a special relationship with. I won't go into all the gory details, but basically we were friends who had sex sometimes, and it was a really good friendship. And yeah, her boyfriends hated me. I guess they felt threatened, which is very flattering, honestly. There's a lot of August entries. So August is officially love month. I'm also filming this during August, and I'm about to go see my lover in all the way across the Atlantic. And yeah, I'll get there in August. So when you're watching this, I will be there. Maybe I'll see these specific ducks. Who knows? Don't remember what this was about, but I do like the idea that, you know, your heart can be unrealistic sometimes, because it wants what it wants. Here we get to the start of another relationship. Here we had like started seeing each other, but we weren't like officially together, and I was just like high on all the good love chemicals, and I was thinking about, you know, the risk of future heartbreak and not caring. I was like, it's worth it. Which there were times after it ended where I wouldn't have felt like it was worth it, but you know, now it's 2 years since that breakup, and yeah, it was worth it. You know, it happens. You love and you lose and you get hurt and you move on. At least when you have strong feelings, you feel that you're alive, you feel human. Again, more August entries. And this was about that same thing, you know, asking the question, can you stop wanting what you want? Can you suppress the feeling if you don't think it's wise? And I obviously couldn't. I don't think I tried very hard. This was about a talk I had with my therapist about that relationship, because I was thinking about ending it. Yeah, just going back and forth, because, you know, there are good parts and bad parts. Every time I considered it, I ended up feeling that the good parts outweighed the bad. And in hindsight, maybe I regretted that, but I also think it's like a good trait of mine to be optimistic and not want to give up on something that like has a lot of good in it. This was about that. Take what's good about it and ignore the bad, essentially. That can be really bad advice if it's like a genuinely like abusive or shitty relationship. This was not that, so don't worry, like it wasn't that bad. And we end after the breakup of that relationship, where, yeah, the breakup that I used to feel terrified would happen had happened. And I was okay. And today I am more okay than ever. That's some character growth right here. And that's that. I guess what we learned from this is that love is real. It is worth opening up to, even if it's terrifying and you can get hurt. Like, what else is there, you know? As a social species, we need each other. Having each other makes things easier and worthwhile. I think love is worth the trouble. I realize I am saying it as someone who's like in new love, in the early stages of a relationship, when you're just all fuzzy and cozy all the time. And it is also difficult, and yeah, it can make you stupid. And it can make you suffer, but I overall I think it's worth it. And I think that's the conclusion I've come to after going through all of this. So these drawings are part of a project I'm doing to, in various themes, create artwork with my old diary entries. This is the folder I have for the project, and I want to make it into a book. And if you liked this and you want to like come along on the journey, be the first to see new progress and new chapters, I do that on Patreon. I keep patrons updated throughout the process, because it took me like three months or something to do all of this, and my patrons have been with me every step of the way, and the videos I post there have a lot more detail about the specific like art processes, because I use a different style for every chapter just because I think that's fun and I can't be tamed. You can also subscribe to my newsletter, which is the free membership on Patreon, so that costs nothing. You will be slightly more in the know about the ongoing diary drawing project if you're on the newsletter. So that is also an option. Regardless, thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching this video and just sharing these awkwardly tender human emotions with me. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I think that's something we need more of in this day and age of, you know, generative AI and influencers and whatnot. I hope it gave you something. Thank you. And a huge shout out to everyone who's already my patron. I super duper appreciate you guys. Couldn't do it without you. Until I see you next time, take care of yourself. Bye.